Starting now.
Ready?
Yes.
I'd like to call the December 17th, 2020 Airport Commission meeting to order. Will the airport manager please call the roll?
Bias.
Here.
Eoff.
Here.
Toutfest.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Stenga.
Here.
And we have also in attendance Mayor Whitney, Maintenance Manager Scott Sundberg, and City Clerk Shelley Sainer.
Don't forget Lisa Parker.
And the most important of all, Council Member Lisa Parker.
Are there any changes to the agenda? Are we ready? Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes of the June 18th and the September 17th meetings? Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Are there any scheduled public comments and presentations?
There are none.
None. Action items. We have to elect the Airport Commission Vice Chair. May I have a nomination for the position of Vice Chair? Can I nominate?
I'll nominate myself.
There you go. Do I hear a second for Commissioner Bias?
I second that.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any objections to selecting Commissioner Bias as Vice Chair? Hearing none, Commissioner Bias is the Airport Commission Vice Chair. Thank you, Alex. Reports from the Airport Manager.
Okay, this is the bulk of the meeting here tonight. In the agenda, you can see we've got 6 kind of items. Some are longer than others. The first one really is what we really want to talk about tonight. This is something that has been kind of on our agenda for some time and is really a recurring theme. That's snow and ice control at the airport. As most of you know, and particularly the users, it's kind of an annual thing. 1, just responsiveness. 2, what is our policy regarding runway, taxiway, apron areas, tie-down areas, lease areas, and prioritization of those. And then also accommodating different user groups, straight skis, wheeled planes, commercial operations, sanding and traction control, and things of that nature. So this is kind of our annual annual discussion over snow and ice control at the airport. Wanted to get feedback from the commission. I've received some feedback from some users over the telephone and email, just asking for more responsive snow and ice control and snow cleanup. Scotty was here. Scotty, are you still on? It looks like we have lost Scotty, and he's not in my promotion. Oh man, that was quick. Let me give him a call real quick because I wanted Scotty to be able to give us a quick update on his procedures in coordination with Kenai Flight Service.
There he is. He's on your screen.
Scotty is back. So Scotty, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I dropped internet, so it's not back.
Okay, all right. We are at the Airport Manager Report on item number 1, talking about snow and ice control policy. Kind of give a brief overview to folks about, this is kind of our annual revisit discussion about snow and ice control and prioritization of the different areas, our policies and procedures and the way we do things right now, our coordination with Kenai Flight Service, and then just a discussion about, how it's working, potential changes that the commissioners might like to see. I want to report that I have had contact from some folks that were wanting to see quicker maintenance, have snow removal in a more prompt fashion, have braking action reported, a lot more, I guess, hands-on snow and ice control action by the airport than typically we have provided in the past. And so, Scotty, maybe you want to just kind of give a brief overview of what maintenance does and what our prioritizations are.
Yeah, can you hear me? So yeah, on a daily basis, we have a guy go out, every morning we check the tie down areas, planes, who's parked out there, and then, in the winter months would give me runway, taxiway conditions, so that we would report to Kenai Flight Service. We don't do braking action. They don't want us to do braking action. We do not have the proper technology, whether it be a braking trailer or like Kenai has on their vehicles, where they actually have a meter in their trucks where they do the braking action on the runway, which would be more of a controlled airport for commercial type flights, not a non-controlled airport like we have in Seattle. So that's kind of our daily operations. And when it comes to snow, if we get a big snowfall, a lot of people aren't aware we have 5 operators, 2 mechanics and myself. So our city streets would take priority on a bigger snowstorm. And if we have a mechanic available, we could get them out on the runway, the day of the storm if it wasn't on the weekend. So typically we would take care of town first. We'll get, say, the Thanksgiving storm we had to do, a perfect example. We had pretty big snowfall on Friday, the holiday, so we came in on Saturday, we plowed city streets. We came in on Monday, we threw 2 guys at the airport, and then we started blowing in town, blowing in the trucks. We cleared 725, all the taxiways, aprons to the fuel island, and then Tuesday we got another big dump, so we put the boys back out on the streets. We cleared the streets, and then Wednesday morning we started loading trucks, and then I threw 3 guys at the airport. We cleared 725 taxiways, all the aprons again, into the fuel islands, and then the rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we threw the rest of the crew at it. Thursday being the biggest day, we had. We had 3 graders, loader with the push blade, a 950, and a Kodiak blower, working all day Thursday. And so we finished up Friday afternoon. So that was a week's worth of work, and was able to get the airport done fully twice, and town done twice, along with loading trucks for 2 days. So all in all, for a 5-man crew, be helping out. It's quite a bit of area to move snow. So that's kind of where our priority would be. As far as airport versus city, and and then trying to fit in the ski planes versus the wheels. That's another, scenario we get at our airport. Trying to keep it good for the ski guys versus the guys on wheels, and your medevacs coming in, and the different case scenarios there. So that's kind of a small overview from the maintenance end of the world. Kind of from our Thanksgiving storm we had.
Thanks, Scotty. So while you folks digest that, the other thing I think that we will revisit as a city is just some training, both with issuing NOTAMs and working with Kenai Flight Service for condition updates. Also getting on the same page with those folks regarding our unmanned, uncontrolled airport, where we don't have bodies there 24/7. We don't have them there on the weekends, and so in the supplement. It is noted that the airport conditions are not monitored, so that is an established policy for the Slotin Airport. But I do think that it's a good time. We also got 2 I don't want to say brand new operators, but within a month or 2, a couple of new operators that are working with us in our heavy equipment. So it's a good time to do some training in regards to issuing NOTAMs. Prioritization and where we plow and when we plow at the airport, and then nail down ski strip access and some policies on access management at the airport. Where we put the moldboard on float and try to leave some material down, and where we don't. Some of that's going to be education too with users. Where wheel planes and ski planes have better access. So that's something I think that we're going to implement regardless, is kind of revisiting those policies, procedures, and training. But I welcome feedback to any changes or requests to modify or different approaches to Scotty's kind of existing program. You know, to what he just talked about. If anybody has specific comments, we're welcome to hear that. And I think what I would suggest is, you know, we'll take feedback and commentary from this meeting, and then you know, apply that pretty quickly in our best practices, and then develop a written policy and kind of a summary of our current practices that we can issue, and everybody from users to the FAA, you know, we can post in the airport lounge, just so that any ambiguity over, you know, when we're plowing and when we're not is resolved. So again, any feedback or any pros, cons, good, what you like, don't like at the airport?
I'll throw in 3 cents. I think Scotty's in a position that is very difficult. You're never going to make every user happy. There's always going to be, someone's not going to be happy, and they're going to want the perfect scenario, yet they don't want to pay for it in the, you know, increased lease rates and things of that nature. Last spring was a tough spring. I think a lot of things went into that. This year, everything I've seen out there has been first rate. I do. And then you got the weather changes, and the weather changes can change the, I mean, it's in 12 hours we can go from a perfect situation to a horrible situation for almost every user. And I think this year is doing a great job. I think I'm reading these emails and whatnot, and I think it might be advantageous if we somehow could get a user group that may have the majority of the complaints, and then let's set a time and go out there, and me, you, Scotty, whoever else, and see what they expect, and maybe try to smooth see if we can explain to them that what the goal is here. I don't know.
No, that's a great idea.
I think this year's been incredible, and we've had good weather. We're not a controlled airport, and I don't know. It's a tough, snow removal out there for the last 30 years has been a tough gig, and I think this year is one of the better situations I've seen it controlled. I mean, last spring was tough for Scotty. I know he had personnel issues, and we had a ton of snow. But this year's been, I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think outreach and like I said, getting everybody's expectations in alignment, it will resolve a lot of the angst. Not that there's a lot. I've only, you know, I haven't gotten a lot of feedback. Like I said, the typical straight ski, wheel ski kind of issues with access to the ski strip, which is something that I think we can get better at, and will with some training. And Scotty and I talked about it just this week with different options and making sure that we're trying to do our best. Not that we can always, you know, especially with the weather changes when when it rains, and just like sanding, you know, with traction, you know, a lot of users don't want it, and some do. So the other thing to note is you know, as a small GA local designated airport, we have closed the airport multiple times this year, even with rain on ice. It's a reality that it gets in some conditions that are just not safe, and we're not able to take care of it, and the result is that our airport closes, which is unacceptable for many airports. But for our airport, it is, particularly when conditions warrant it. And there are ramifications to that. For most private pilots and users, it's not a big deal. For some of the commercial operations, it can be. And and most of the legacy users out there, we've got a great relationship with, all of them really, and we work together really well on those kind of instances. So, any other feedback as far as snow and ice control that the city can take? And thank you, Nancy.
I just had a question. Is there any way that we can have access to the kind of things that you're hearing? Obviously, I have pretty hands-on look on things all the time, and they look really great out here. I think the guys are the new people that are out here cleaning up the airport are really putting their heart and soul into trying to do the job right and learn it. We lost one of our regulars last spring, so, kind of coming up to the speed on that, but they look really good right now. But I'd be curious to know what kind of complaints there might be out there, potential, possibly because it's slick underneath the snow, maybe?
No, and they've been phone calls and an email. Not particularly. I think one person got a hold of me last spring. I think in that first time there was a problem where some lease lots or tie down snow removal created a berm in front of their place, and he thought it was the city leaving the berm, and he couldn't get out. And then the other concern was just, we recently had 4 inches of fresh, and it did take us a little bit longer than normal, usually a couple days, and we're out there. And I think, was that the Thanksgiving storm, Scotty? It might have taken us 3 or 4 days to get out there to get the taxiways and apron areas done, and there was some frustration there with that. So in the past, we haven't had issues with 4 inches of fresh. I think there's changing users too. We've got some newer users out there that may have different expectations, which is spurring this conversation where it's fair for those inquiries to come in, and it's probably time for us to update and just make sure that we disseminate that information so everybody's on the same page, so they know what to expect.
Yeah, I think a lot of the newer users just don't know, or they just expect it to be like it was in Oregon or wherever they came from.
Right, and it's not to say that we can't implement some of these policies. We can, but as Scotty said, doing some quick math with the number of operators in yellow iron that we've got running out there on diesel, it adds up quick. Scotty's back of the napkin math was about 15,000 on that last weather event. So, hiring bodies dedicated to the airport, contracting it out, these are all options, but they've got ramifications, which is why we're bringing it to the commission to consider these things and stay up to speed on things and provide feedback to the administration so that we can, implement anything that you guys think that we should start looking at. But what I'm hearing is that substantial changes are not needed at this point, or at least being considered. And what I can commit to doing is, again, ramping up our training and relationship with FAA and our recurring reporting, so the condition reporting is as up to speed as we can make it, and then perhaps doing some outreach with folks like Commissioner Stanga mentioned, and meeting with folks, and then also probably publishing something that wasn't written on a typewriter as far as operations go at the airport, that we can post in the pilot's lounge and on our website and such, so that there is some information out there. I did check our airport page is not real detailed, but on the maintenance page of our website it does say that the third priority after streets are passable and when resources become available, airport runway and taxiways will be plowed. Tie-down areas are the last priority for plowing unless directed by the maintenance supervisor. So this has been our policy for a long time, and
I think people just don't know.
Yeah, and so
they just expect.
Yeah, so we're always interested in bettering our airport and our operations, and I think that we will. But I think that we're not going to be a certificated airport with scheduled air service and have the responsiveness of a Kenai or other tower airport. So Yeah, any other comments or questions or anything on snow and ice control?
I think a lot of our users out there are at that airport for that reason.
Yeah,
You know,
yep.
Or the films and, whatnot have it. And I do have one, Kyle, when I do call in Kenai Flight Service, say on a weekend event, anytime I mention water or ice, Kenai Flight Service is the ones that immediately will close down, our runway. So anytime I mention water or, on top of ice or water and snow, anytime we get that event, it's pretty much an automatic from flight, service until we can get out there that they will close the 725.
Kenai Flight Service does?
When we call the NOTAMs, we put the NOTAM in with them, but
Oh.
anytime I mention, if we're having a rain event, they're gonna tell me, the runway needs to be closed down until we can get maintenance out there, So that is something that, coming from their end, we rely on their knowledge over there in Kenai as far as, the flight service folks' recommendations. I give them what I'm seeing there firsthand, 2 inches of fresh snow on top of compact ice, and then they're gonna put it in the computer, to the liking of the FAA. So we work with them closely on our NOTAMs, as far as, so the proper verbiage gets put in, the NOTAMs.
I do think, I think change of use also brings this topic up, and I don't know the frequency of fixed wing medevac employments or takeoffs at the airport over time to a certain degree. But I think that that user group may have different expectations, and I think different coordination levels with FAA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that may be creating some of the conflict too, or at least some of the issue here, where they're expecting a different level of service from the airport and also from the FAA, and the FAA doesn't have those answers for them in turn. So that's another user group that I intend to reach out to talk about this topic as well.
And you and I had a meeting with them, Kyle, when they were talking about maybe building a hangar out that way. That was something we did mention in the meeting, is there will be times that they may want to go to Kenai. We're going to try to keep it up the best we can, but there will be times the medevac, should use Kenai, so that was mentioned when we had our meeting with LifeMed a few years back.
And I think they still do when it's needed, and I think that might frustrate them, that they have to use Kenai when Soldotna is not in a condition for their particular aircraft and loading. So, but that's something, and I think that was, I'm not sure, I think that was Guardian. I don't know if Guardian's coming in or just LifeMed to Soldotna. I can't keep up, but that's something that we can look into, Scotty. Okay.
Sounds good.
I will move on to number 2. I promise these will go a little bit quicker so that we can all check in on the football game.
No.
DBE reporting updates. This is the time of the year I kind of give a quick annual update to the commission. Our disadvantaged business enterprise Part 26 achievement reports are due annually this time of the year, so I've been muddying my way through that. Every 3 years we do a Part 26 program and establish DBE goals. This is for our contracting requirements. In previous year, submissions have been sent back for revise and resubmit based on some criteria that they want us to put in. So we're working through that. I've engaged Winsworth Bryson, our consultant, consulting engineers at the airport, to assist with some contract documents and payment documents. We have to break out awards by commitments, prime subcontractor payments, breakdowns by ethnicity, by gender. We got to report payments that are ongoing and payments that are completed. So it's a kind of a robust reporting requirement that is kind of tricky, and we're still kind of we're still waiting and watching the results of the Western Paving States court case regarding the DBE program and the applicability of it and the necessity to implement the DBE program for federally funded FAA projects. We do have an established goal of 10% right now that's based on past participation and available resources and contractors in our area. It's 8% race neutral and a 2% race conscious goal. The difference being targeting assistance for all small businesses versus assisting DBE approved firms only. Work in progress, lots of reporting, an important part of FAA contracting. So just want to get you guys up to date that we are doing the DBE reporting, got some past reports that got returned and asked to be resubmitted, working through that right now. Any questions on the lovely DBE process? Alex?
I have a question. What does DBE stand for exactly for those that don't know what it means?
DBE stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. So minority-owned and women-owned businesses that meet certain criteria can get approval to be placed on, to have that designation to be placed on a list. Some federal law requires certain contracts using federal funding to establish a goal, a participation goal for DBE participation in these contracts. So in our case, we've established a 10% goal. So if we have a $1 million project, ideally we'd have $100,000 going to either a prime contractor or a subcontractor that's designated as a DBE business. A lot of times the goals are not achievable, and there's a whole process for contractors to follow that involve good faith efforts where they document that they've reached out to DBEs or DBE databases and have to prove that they've met the good faith efforts to try and achieve this participation. It's a program that is implemented all over the country, has varying results in different areas of the country, obviously has been legally challenged in the case of the Western States paving case, and there's still some ambiguity, and it's not clear. The results from that case don't make it clear whether or not the city and other recipients of federal funds are just how they're required to meet the DBE Code of Federal Regulations. So in absence of that, we're continuing to establish a program, which is writing a report that identifies what we do and who we are and how we're abiding by the DBE regulations, and then establishing a goal percentage of all of our contracts, which again takes into account past participation in available DBE firms in our area. So it's a pretty robust program that does take quite a bit of time and energy, but has some ambiguity about it. It's paperwork, but we get millions and millions of dollars from the federal government, so we do it happily. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other last questions? Scotty gets to be the safety officer for the whole city, and I get to be the DBE person. So it's kind of I don't know which one I'd rather have least. The next item is CARES Act grant funds. As you may recall, the city received $30,000. The airport received $30,000 from the CARES Act that was passed by Congress. That funding was it was eligible for use for payroll directly, which is different than the CARES Act funding that was passed by the state to municipalities and agencies for other uses. So that $30,000 went directly towards payroll for Scotty's guys out there doing the snow removal that we already talked about, and other such things, keeping the lights running, etc. So that has directly offset a $30,000 allocation in our personnel budget in the airport fund. So it clearly was really good for the airport fund. The other thing I'll note real quickly on the topic of CARES Act grant funds, the city has done, in my opinion, a fantastic job of taking the grant funds and putting them into the community in ways that they were intended. The administration has done a lot of work to get the money out through various programs, and the council has supported and approved half a dozen different programs, from rent relief, water and sewer relief. I've got a draft kind of poop sheet here. 3.48 million in grants to over 165 small businesses in Soldotna, over $500,000 in grants to 31 area nonprofits, $250,000 in the Shop Local program that generated $600,000 in local spending. That's that program that just ended recently, and I think that's even been increased since that. $32,000 in virtual storefront improvement grants, and then we partnered with individual entities, over $300,000 in food assistance to the food bank, over $200,000 to the hospital for COVID mitigation, $36,000 in Freedom House, over $200,000 to KPC, the college, $175,000 to support mental health services with PCHS, $32,000 to Love Inc. for homelessness and emergency shelter. Again, $500,000 for rent and mortgage relief, $88,000 to households to cover essential expenses, and $22,000 in sewer and water hardship grants. So just a real quick, brief overview of what the city's done with our grant funds. You know, that being said, we've fully expended the $7.3 million that the city received through the state from the feds, and then the borough additionally gave us $2.5 million of their money to disseminate, and to date, I think we are right around $800,000 or so still remaining that we are working on how to address and how that could best get put into the community. So, any questions on CARES Act or COVID in general? All right, tree obstruction removal. This is a fun one. We have several trees. We have a tree that's been identified by FAA that is in the 20-to-1 approach plane. It results in a restriction on instrument approaches for night IFR approaches on runway 7. And per FAA, it's a tree in the 20-to-1 approach, which is the lower night approach. And so what we did is pulled our aeronautical survey, identified all the obstructions that were on that aeronautical survey, identified all of the surfaces which happen to be trees that are on airport property that aren't on the refuge because we can't deal with those. But and then we took those obstructions and took everything that was within 5 feet of that, accounting for growth, because the aeronautical survey was conducted about 4 years ago, I believe. So we took all trees that were within 5 feet of that and identified them. We issued a contract to McLean and Associates to survey and identify those trees, and they did that last week. So we have 20 trees flagged and identified as potential, and particularly one in particular that's been identified as an obstruction. It's 0.66 feet, so it's about 8 inches into the approach plane, 300 or 400 feet past the end of the runway. But we do have it identified along with 19 other trees that working with Scotty and our Parks Department to get out there and chainsaw them down. So this has been something I've been working on since I think mid-November. Lo and behold, I had to get a NEPA environmental document to chainsaw down these trees, but fortunately that was a pretty quick process. I did a CADX and got it approved through FAA. So we have environmental clearance to chop down a tree, turn it into firewood, 20 trees. So hopefully we'll get that, probably get out there in the next couple of weeks and get those trees down. Once that happens, I can officially notify FAA that the obstruction has been removed, and then the folks in DC can take that out of their system, and I believe the IFR at night restriction will come off of the database. So you learn something every day as an airport manager in Soldotna.
I ask a question?
You can. I hope I have an answer for you.
Well, which end of the airport, east or west end?
What West End?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was kind of figuring that, but I wasn't.
Yeah,
So
and
is that in private property?
no, fortunately, it's all on airport property. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep, airport property extends beyond the fence. There's the parking lot for the dog mushing lot. There's, I believe it was cleared eons ago, and
Yeah.
there's some substantial growth. Each year, Scotty and his crew rent an excavator for our ditching program around the city, and any excess time we have with that, he sends a crew out to start ripping and tearing. This year, whoever he sent out, Scotty really got on it, and they knocked down a ton of trees, a couple of which I think were in this included here, but it's actually quite a ways more west than that even. So the airport property extends quite a ways to the west beyond the fencing. So fortunately, it's all on airport property, which makes the environmental documentation and removal much more easy.
Good.
Lease tie-down update. I don't have a whole lot of information for you. I did have a end of the fiscal year synopsis. No real changes. Pretty much standard comings and goings with ski planes, with float planes getting off of lakes coming in. So no substantial changes. A handful of lease non-renewals and new renewals. I have that sheet electronically, so if anybody's interested in seeing those changes, just send me an email and I'll send you guys those updates. But nothing substantial to report on tie-down or lease changes. Other than, I guess since our last meeting, we do have the development of two hangars ongoing. You've probably seen them, Derek Lichlider's hangars. T hangar is being built towards the west end there, near Funny River Road. He has plans to build 3 hangars. One is constructed. The second one, the earthwork has been completed, and I believe he's been working on getting the building. And the third one is just in the planning phases at this point, as far as I understand. So, and then there's 2 new hangars on the east end that Greg Anderson has been building near Samaritan's Purse's compound at the end. One, he's already done a lease transfer to Preby Airlines, Preby Airways LLC. I believe he's the orthodontist that flies down and does work here. So both of those are still ongoing, work in progress, and a few tire kickers as usual for lease lots, but nothing new to report other than those 2. And then last but not least, capital project status report. I'm pleased to report that the snow removal equipment building right next to Funny River Road that you've also probably seen, beautiful building. It is at 99.9% complete. Repeating, just waiting on one piece of paperwork, but final payment's been processed and is waiting to go out. So we've taken beneficial occupancy, we've got equipment in there, and it's been already a benefit for Scotty and his crew to hit 2 clickers and run right across the street and maintain the airport. So it's definitely an asset. Additionally, it's beneficial for the airport, but also for the city as a whole. It now frees up significant space in our city-owned shop for city equipment that previously sat outside in the cold and now has a home indoors. So, Scotty, anything to add on the Shrub? Other than you're getting a few phone calls, working through some fire alarm stuff, typical new building things that are going well. So.
No, yeah, just typical few new things we're working through. No, phenomenal building. Yeah, we're getting it all set up. Got some shelving in there for just different parts and pieces, and no, it's a great new addition to the maintenance department.
Yeah, agreed. Project was it was a great project, and we're excited to have the building. The last capital project status report is the runway rehab project. This is the big $7 million project where we will completely demo the runway and flatten the vertical curve, repave the runway, install all new edge lighting. We issued notice to proceed on the project. Very little occurred this year. We did have HEA install a new meter base to provide power to the west end. Currently, the AWAS shack provides power to everything out there, and that's a bit of a run. The FAA was adamant about replacing the VAZIs with PAPIs. So there'll be new PAPIs replacing the VAZIs on both ends of the runway. There'll be a new fiberglass shack to house the components for the westerly PAPI system. That's what the HA power is for, with some step-up, step-down transformers as needed. The only other thing that occurred this year was the electrician did some underground bores under the taxiway for conduit, so that in the spring we don't have to wait for frozen ground or anything like that. They can get started with some of the earthwork right away. It also gets us out of the object-free area for the runway once that taxiway becomes a runway. So there'll need to be some significant coordination and outreach with the aviation community and airport users before spring, before we have spring startup on the project, to communicate exactly what is going to happen out there. The FAA has authorized turning the parallel taxiway into a temporary runway. That will have minimal effect on most users. It's really just the jet aircraft, I think, that will be impacted for that duration. Speaking with the Beech King Air operators, which is our probably largest design aircraft, they didn't object to using the parallel taxiway or even the strip if needed. So that will be a big change at the airport next summer. But that's where we're at. We're in winter shutdown. I imagine at our next airport commission meeting, I'll probably have a little more detailed plan for you guys and a outline for our public outreach and some stakeholder meetings with users so that everybody can get on the same page and be ready for that pretty disruptive project, but ultimately it will be a great outcome for the airport.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Next line item is a report from the commission chair. I do not have one. And the next line item is maintenance department manager report. Do you have one, Scotty, other than what we've discussed?
I think we covered it.
I think so. Next is from the city manager. She's not on, is she?
Nope, she's not on. She was planning to attend, but wasn't able to.
Okay. Are there any members of the public on your screen? I don't believe there are there?
There are nobody is raising their hand or is in the queue.
Okay. Council comments. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to welcome the new commissioner to the Airport Commission, and glad to see you guys back full strength. Since Mayor Whitney is with us tonight, I will defer to the mayor if he would like to provide the commission with any updates on what high-level updates on what we've been doing at City Council the last couple months.
Make too many highlights, we'd be here until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Not another one of those long nights. I'd like to thank.
It's the top three.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for serving on the commission. It's greatly appreciated. I know you all have busy schedules, and we really appreciate you taking the time to serve. Some of the things that are coming up out of the airport area is the annexation. That's still in front of the local boundary commission. We're still waiting for a final decision from them, which should have been forthcoming a while back, but it looks like it won't happen until after the first of the year when they finally come up with a final written decision. CARES Act money is still some available. The city is looking at how to distribute what is remaining, which amounts to about $800,000, $900,000 try to get it out to small businesses and nonprofits before the end of the year when it has to be all spent. I hate to return anything. And we still have an opportunity to help some of the small businesses. COVID, of course, is pretty much hit everybody. We're doing Zoom meetings still. I will be very happy when we can all sit down in the same room and have a discussion and look at each other face to face instead of trying to go through one of these Zoom meetings where you get all kinds of interferences and get lost and everything else. The council chambers is being remodeled right now. It'll be a much better system once that is done. We'll have cameras in there and be able to do live streaming of meetings. With that, last night we did discuss the reopening of the sports center for hockey players. It's still going to be very limited, mostly just practice time. Hopefully, at least I hope that we can see in the next 30 days or so a larger opening and more activities that can go on there. Parks and Rec Department and Scotty and his crew got Arc Lake up and running for ice skating. I think they're putting in a second rink out there. Looking at doing a rink there at Soldotna L, where there used to be one years ago, right across from the post office. And I think the Soldotna Creek Park is already out, or if it isn't, it's going to be very soon. I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. Vice Mayor Parker, do you have anything to add?
No, you covered it very well, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Parker and Mayor Whitney. Are there any comments from any of the commissioners?
I do. My first comment is to apologize for missing 2 meetings and not checking in. I'm very embarrassed by it, but we've had a few medical issues we've been dealing with, but I think we're pretty well back up and running. So hopefully that won't come up again. And the other thing is, I noticed this summer, and it's probably something I don't even have, I shouldn't even be able to say anything about because I've missed meetings, but there's some new surfacing that went on kind of at the east end of the airport, just kind of like south of Stenga's hangar, that looks like it's new blacktop, but it looks like it's a wheat field growing there. I don't know what happened. I've had a number of people say, what the heck happened there? So I don't know if we have an answer to that, or if we're going to like burn them off next year or what.
Yeah.
But it's pretty odd.
Yeah, that's
Kind of odd.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually noticed that too. So actually, last meeting there was a couple of questions. One was about the seal coat warranty, and we did do a seal coat under most of the areas, but on that west area we did do a seal coat, and we did do some debris removal and grass removal from the cracks. And I don't know if doing that made it worse, made them grow faster or not, but there is some growth going out of those. And one of the questions was about that seal coat and warranty in particular. And unfortunately, warranty is a hard thing to apply in that case, but particularly because one, we approved a quantity of product and approved the correct product, and to get a thicker coating, we would have needed to have bought more of the products. What we did is we ensured that the right amount went down that we bought, and we probably could have concentrated it in areas better. So, but I don't know. We'll look into that, Nancy, and just we haven't gotten into the crack cleaning in a while because we haven't had to. We've been putting down new asphalt, but we just did that rehab project. Scotty?
Yeah, the area where they're seeing most of the growth is where they ran out of product for crack seal. So the amount that was spent for the product, the crack seal ran out, but they still had product to apply to the asphalt, so they cleaned the cracks, they got rid of the debris, and then they seal coated over the top of it. But that was the areas that were not crack sealed. due to funds to continue the crack sealing in that area.
Yeah, we should have budgeted, we should have budgeted 100 times more for crack sealing, two components, crack sealing and seal coating, so. On our radar fortunately we don't have a lot of old asphalt, it's mostly new out there, but on our radar.
Replacing it with new, not a problem.
Yeah. The other question we had at the last meeting was about a 737 operations and our runway designation code isn't large enough for a 737 at 5,000 feet. Our design aircraft is a B3, which is one size bigger than our biggest, Beech King Air design aircraft. So the approach speed is too high for 737s at our airport if you follow the rules. So.
Are there any more comments from commissioners?
No, this is Kurt. I'd like to thank Shelley, who was ever responsible for getting the audio working. Came in 10 by 10. Thanks again.
Thanks, Kurt.
Okay, well, I guess we will adjourn this meeting. Meeting's adjourned.
All right. And Charlene, I promise this is probably one of our longest meetings we've ever had.
I have a meeting starting here at 6:30, so
Oh.
thank you.
Happy holidays.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.